So here's a big question for you. Can you have profound, transformative, even spiritual experiences without believing in anything on faith? Today, we're going to dive into Sam Harris's really provocative book, Waking Up, and his whole argument is that, yeah, you absolutely can, that the deepest truths about the human mind are available to anyone who's just willing to look. No religion required.
Harris kicks off his journey with a pretty startling admission. Get this. His big breakthrough wasn't some vision on a mountaintop or a prayer being answered. Nope, it was a single dose of MDMA that gave him this moment of moral and emotional clarity. A moment so profound, it completely reset his entire understanding of what our minds are even capable of.
And that single experience, well, it brings up the central question of this entire exploration. Is it possible, really, that those states of boundless love and compassion and self-transcendence, the very things that religions have kind of claimed ownership of for millennia, what if they're actually just features of consciousness that we can all access without any of the dogma?
And this leads us right to the core idea of the book, the idea that we can and maybe even should separate the concept of spirituality from the institution of religion.
Harris makes this really crucial distinction right from the get-go. On one hand, you have religion, which he argues relies on beliefs about the universe that you can't test, claims you just have to take on faith. But spirituality, as he defines it, is something else entirely. It's an empirical project. It's about investigating the nature of your own mind through direct experience and just seeing what you find there.
So you might be thinking, okay, but why would anyone even start this investigation? Well, according to Harris, it's because the default state of our minds is, for most of us, a source of constant low-grade dissatisfaction.
Most of us think our unhappiness comes from the outside world, from the traffic jam, a bad day at work, from other people. But Harris argues the real source is internal. It's the ceaseless reactive chatter going on inside our own minds.
This just perfectly captures that feeling, doesn't it? The mind is always in motion, always chasing the next pleasure or running from the next discomfort. We get the thing we want, and for a fleeting moment, we're satisfied. But then, boom! A new desire immediately pops up to take its place.
You know, the Buddhists have a word for this subtle but persistent stress, dukkha. And it's not just talking about some huge tragedy. It's that background hum of anxiety and craving that comes from being perpetually identified with the next thought, the next desire, the next fear.
So what's driving this engine of dissatisfaction? This brings us to a radical and absolutely crucial point in Harris's argument. The idea that the self we feel ourselves to be is, in a very profound way, an illusion.
Think about it. Most of our waking life is spent in a conversation with ourselves. We're rehearsing past arguments, worrying about the future, narrating the present moment. It's a constant inner monologue. And we are completely identified with this stream of thinking. And this is the key question. When you actually stop and look for this I, this thinker of the thoughts, this feeler of the feelings, what do you find? Is there a little person sitting in your head, a CEO of your consciousness, or is there just thinking? To illustrate this, Harris points to the work of a philosopher named Douglas Harding and his headless way experiment. The whole idea is that if you try to look for yourself from your own first-person perspective, you don't find a concrete thing. You find an open, aware space in which the whole world just appears. This points to the idea that the self isn't a thing, but maybe it's the space of awareness itself.
So, if the feeling of being a separate self is the problem, how do we actually investigate it? The answer lies in developing a practical skill, a technique for looking at the mind directly.
This is where meditation, specifically mindfulness, comes in. And Harris is very, very clear. This is not about religion or dogma. It's a secular psychological training. The word sati, or mindfulness, simply means clear awareness. It's a technique for paying clear, non-judgmental attention to your experience in the present moment. And as you can see, the practice itself is surprisingly straightforward. There's no chanting, no belief required. You just sit, you pay attention to the physical sensation of your breath, and when you get lost in thought, which you will thousands of times, you gently, without judgment, just come back to the breath. And this corrects the biggest myth about meditation. The goal isn't to stop your thoughts. That's basically impossible. The real goal is to break the spell of being identified with them. The moment you notice, oh, hey, I'm thinking, you have, for just an instant, stepped out of the stream and become the witness to it. You stopped being the thought and started observing it.
That's the first crack in the illusion of the self, and that's a moment of freedom. So what's the point of all this? What happens when you repeatedly practice this kind of awareness and you begin to see through the illusion of the self?
Well, this is the destination. It's not some fleeting high, but what the Buddhist monk Matthew Ricard calls a state of genuine flourishing. It's a stable sense of well-being that isn't dependent on whether things are going your way or not, because it arises from the very nature of a clear and healthy mind.
So, the crucial point is this. Waking up isn't about achieving some permanent state of bliss where nothing ever bothers you again. It's about cultivating the capacity to be free from the grip of your own reactive thoughts right here, right now, no matter what life is throwing at you.
Ultimately, waking up is an invocation. It's a guide to exploring the most intimate part of your reality, your own consciousness, and discovering a deeper source of well-being that is already here, just waiting to be noticed.
And so we end with a final instruction, a direct experiment for you to try, right now. Look for the self that is seeing these words and hearing this voice. Turn your attention on itself. Don't think about it, just look. What do you actually find?